Thank you, Sampath, for your invitation. Thank you, Rishihood University. Colleagues here, students, audiences. I teach political science in JNU, that's called Center for Political Studies, CPS, in the School of Social Sciences. Couple of things in half an hour that I'll try to outline. I'm familiar with this Mothers International School because my daughter and my son both were educated here. And I still remember approximately 30 years ago when me and my wife faced written test separately for the admission of my daughter. And one of the questions that was asked, there was a written test. I was asked to carry my pen, and we were given the copies and the question paper for the test in those decades, in 90s. And one of the important questions that I still remember that was asked to me, the role of emotions in integral education. And here, after 30 years, again, the history is revisiting. And in the same school, again, I'm being asked to discuss about the pedagogical tools of integral education and integral humanism in context of Aurobindo, Dindayal Upadhyay. And not only these two, they were the smaller contributors to the whole series of human civilizations, the Indic civilization that we had since Rigvedic days. I'll give you some of what exactly we used to study in schools and in the university. I have the list of 9 major universities in India, apart from the Takshashila and Bikramshila, etc. And what was the syllabus? What was the faculty recruitment procedures? How the students were selected? Was there any reservation for the so-called scheduled caste and scheduled tribes and OBCs, etc.? In admission, in faculty recruitment, or it was purely a merit-based selection, and therefore, India was the land of wisdom. I'll tell you, you may be knowing Hegel. Hegel was one of the German philosophers and the most prominent one of the Western civilization, a philosophical guru of Karl Marx, and continuing the trend of Heraclitus, the German philosopher. I'm quoting him. He called India, before we were colonized, and after colonization, his tone and tenor changed. India is the land of wisdom. I'm quoting his words. Land of wealth, land of desire. Look at those words, desire. And then he says, from the most ancient times downwards, all nations have directed their wishes and longings to gaining access to the treasures of this land of marvels. Unquote. This was Hegel saying, before India was colonized, expressing what West thought of India. In the same trend, I'm quoting again what Marx and Voltaire had to say. Both of them are arguing that what is West today is a gift of India. And now after the colonization, same Hegel is saying, Hindus are incapable of writing their history. Their history is fables. Indians are thieves. Brahmins are murderers. These are the words now. Murderers, thieves, Hindus, Brahmins, Indians. Incapable of. That's the power of colonization. Let me now quote another report, A.D. Campbell. He was the district collector of Bellary. 1823. I'm citing his report. In all the schools of this district, Bellary, of which he was the district collector, reading, writing, and arithmetic are taught in the vernacular dialects. Keep it in mind, vernacular dialects. We teach in English. To the tribals, we teach in Marathi. Marathi is not a mother tongue of the tribals, Adivasis. He is saying, again I am repeating, in the vernacular dialects of the country, as has been always usual in India. I am citing his report. And he is confessing what the colonial rule does. I am quoting him. After the beginning of the colonial rule, the greater part of the middle and lower classes of the people, he doesn't say caste. He doesn't say caste. He says middle and lower classes of people are unable to meet the expenses of the school education for their offspring. Because by that time, as their rule expanded, our indigenous education was made expensive. And he concludes, only a few children of most opulent are taught, other being unable to go to the school, attend the school because of the poverty. Now look at the tragic part. 23.5%, 1765, 23.5% of the global GDP was alone held by India. The status of America today was India in 1765. Before the arrival of the political Islam, the GDP held by India was 33%. Yani in the pre-Islamic type, it was 33%. England had just 3% of the world's goods. A barbaric civilization, a backward civilization capturing the political power in India in 1757. And who helped them? Indians. It's we, a segment of Indians, that facilitated the capture of power of India by the outsiders. So whenever the outsiders have emerged victorious in India, it's always usually the Indians who have facilitated them. Four things. Now let me tell you about the school education that we had. Two reports I am citing. One, of course, I told you. I told you about the Hegel's. I have taken it from the Philosophy of History. 1623, Peter de la Valle, British. 1786, 150 years down the line, an Austrian father, Bartolomeo. Both of them are saying that four things are taught in Indian schools: alphabets, language, elementary mathematics, and ethics. The fourth component is equally important, ethics, and which this A.D. Campbell's report, the district collector of Bellary, substitutes and confirms. The age from which the school used to begin was after the age of 5. Each child from each village, from each family, it means universal education, not caste-based education, not economic criteria-based education, was the universal principle of universal education in India. Because the education was damn cheap. In fact, the students had not to pay anything. Keep it in mind, it was not a government job for the teachers. There was no government school. There was nothing like career. There was nothing like promotion. Anyone who wishes to teach used to teach whatever the knowledge he or she both had. Each girl child, each boy used to go to a school. Universal education, free education. After the age of 5. And then there is a regional variation. In some of the regions, the schooling was up to age of 11 or 13. Sometimes at the age of 16 or 17. And then the different subjects were added. What were those subjects? I'll come subsequently. I'll give you some of the development of science and technology. And this is again the British report that I am quoting. Bombay, January 8, 1794. I remember when Prime Minister Modi said that we had the system of surgery. The academia in JNU and in others, the liberal, left liberals media had a hearty laugh at him, a sarcastic laugh. I'm quoting this, 1794, January 8, Bombay. Royal Society's report. Putting on noses on those who have lost them in an extraordinary situation. हुआ क्या था, कहानी बता देते हैं। टीपू के साथ वार में और उससे पहले भी एक ब्रिटिश सोल्जर का नाक ये कट गया था तलवार से। जिंदा था, मरा नहीं था, और वो पूना में था। माली ने, जिसे हम गार्डनर कहते हैं, ऑस्ट्रेलिया में क्यूरेटर कहते हैं, और जिसको हम समझते हैं ओबीसी का है, ज्योतिबा फूले, ओबीसी और पताका हाई पेडेस्टल और वगैरह, गुरु ऑफ अंबेडकर। माली ने, and Mali in traditional Indian society was a physician, many times surgeon, नाई। हम बार बार कह के हंस देते हैं, जो one of the greatest singer, Muhammad Rafi, was a Nai, barber from Punjab. They were the surgeons and physicians of Ayurved category. उस माली ने उसका यहां से स्किन निकाला काट के ऐसे एक ऊपर का, और एक रफ उसका नाक यहां से ऐसे जोड़ दिया. That's it's being said in the report that putting on noses on those who have lost them in an extraordinary battle. Now let me quote another. January 19, 1792. The same British report is talking about dyeing. Dyeing मतलब जो रंग करते हैं. इनोक्यूशन, वैक्सीनेशन, बंगाल का कोट कर रहे हैं. और जो डॉक्टर है, आयुर्वेदिक डॉक्टर, जो जाके वैक्सीनेशन कर रहा है, जिसको चिकन पॉक्स हो गया है, हर घर में जा रहा है, 4-5 चीजें उसको 1 महीने तक खाना बंद है. नॉनवेज बंद है, मिल्क प्रोडक्ट्स बंद है, और उसका वैक्सीनेशन करके आ रहा है. और उसके लिए वर्ड यूज किया जा रहा है ब्राह्मण. एंड बार्टोलोमियो, द ऑस्ट्रियन फादर, पादरी जो था, जो मालाबार एरिया में स्टेड देयर फॉर 13-16 ईयर्स, उसकी किताब 1795 में पब्लिश हुई थी. ही इज सेइंग दैट दीज स्कूल ब्राह्मण्स, यानी स्कूल टीचर्स के लिए ही इज यूजिंग द वर्ड ब्राह्मण्स. ब्राह्मण मीन्स इन सर्च ऑफ नॉलेज, हु इज इम्पार्टिंग नॉलेज. Indian society was so dynamic that constant skilling, upgradation of skills, so mobile, such a specialization of skills, division of labor, work, and high degree of specialization. At least there were 10 professions highly specialized related with textiles. बड़े हम कॉमनली कहते हैं वीवर्स, बुनकर. There are 10 specialized professions as far as the weaving is concerned. सिल्क निकालने वाला, उस कीड़े को कल्टीवेट करने वाला जिसे सिल्क आता है, उस सिल्क को साफ करने वाला, उसको फिर सिल्क बनाने वाला रेशम, फिर उसका वीविंग करने वाला. Remember, India was the dominant exporter of spices and silk and textiles. And they were all the Western powers, they were coming for this. They practice with great success. I'm again quoting them. They practice with great success the operation of crystalline lens, and when it becomes opaque, and from time immemorial, they have cut for the stone at the same place, now being done in Europe. What they call it monitorial system in Europe, वो हमारे यहां से हमारे स्कूल एजुकेशन ले गए थे, which they accepted it much later, which I am again citing them. Letters from the Court of Directors to the Governor General in Council of Bengal, dated 3rd June 1814. And again they are citing Dr. Bell and others. The Indian education system has now become the mode of education in our Britain का national establishment. And the impact of the colonial education is so strong even today that we laugh at our own history. Now let me come to the higher education. This was about the science and technology that we had, the universal education that we had, the school education. And now let me talk about the university education. What was the syllabus of university education? And this is important a lesson for us to learn. It was interdisciplinary, number one. Medicine education was compulsory to be taught to everyone, because the health and the hygiene was considered as in India the most important, because it was a hot country. The faculty recruitment was based on the interview. नालंदा का बात कर रहा हूं, and I'm citing Fahian and Hyunsan and Vikramshila and Takshashila. Anyone who wishes to have, it was open access to everyone who was capable enough, meritorious enough to have the admissions. He or she was, based on his merit or her merit, was selected as a student and as a faculty. It was universally open. The way the European, Canadian, American systems are there, purely merit-based. And the other important part was the use of the technology, which now we are doing it, not in the public funded universities, but in lot many other, we have come to use artificial intelligence and all kinds of the softwares and technology. I'll give you some of the concepts that we had in India, that in social sciences in particular that was discussed. India's democratic republican traditions. In the schools, we do not encourage students to ask questions. Neither that's practiced in our homes. Let's accept it. If we want to improve ourselves, we have to confess certain things. Just brushing under the carpet won't sort out the problems. It's difficult to face the students, at least one university that I find, that's JNU, where the students will make hell of you if you try to not answer their questions. So this democratic republican traditions of encouraging students to ask the questions from the school education to university education was important pedagogical tools. Number two, the concept of justice, governance, I'm just sharing the bullet points, accommodation, opportunity for individual mobility, adaptations. If a child in the home is asking the questions and if we slap him to keep quiet, we shall not produce Einstein. We shall produce a dullard, an idiot. And that's if the parents encourage him, tolerate his idiosyncrasies, or encourage him to do unusual kinds of practices. That's adaptation and accommodation. Other was what's called futuristic plan and proposal. The hope of the future, the Begumpura. the consciousness of the self. And in all these aspects that I am sharing, the role of the emotions are very important. The question that was asked here to me 35 years ago, the consciousness of the self. What is this consciousness? Looks very high-sounding, high-flaunting words. Try to understand your own nature. If I am very flair in dance and music, and if I am forced to do serious academic philosophical works, it's against the grain of my genetic tendency. That's not the consciousness of the self. I must understand what my nature is. I had decided to be in academia while I was in BA Honors third year in Delhi University. I didn't drift because I didn't get any government job. Therefore, the last resort was to come into academia. No. Since I did not compete for the civil services, since I failed the banking services, now the easier way for a livelihood is to come into academia. If we do not understand our nature, what we desire, what the field in which we can excel, the kind of education that we have, from which we are suffering, that will keep on going. So consciousness of the self, that was taught that was emphasized, and the students were being persuaded to understand your own nature with lot of interdisciplinary knowledge. So one of the pedagogical tools was this. And then your hope and the future opportunity, of course. Yes, and the last, the left has made a lot of hue and cry of multiculturalism. India was multicultural for centuries. All the barbaric civilizations came and conquered us and ruled over us. Keep it in mind, those who came and conquered over us were far backward than us. Still we tolerated them. We didn't celebrate that. We tried to accommodate them. That has been one of the traits of history, but we learned also from them. We co-opted them, we learned from them. So one of the pedagogical tools in education should be, these are some of what we discussed. Thank you very much.